Hi, it's Crystal here, your nature-inspired relationship coach, and I want to talk to you today about sanctuary. And that came to me because I was thinking about caves and how often we associate caves with sanctuary and finding some form of inner peace and respite from the world. And you've heard that expression often used with men going into their man cave when they feel like they need to withdraw and spend some time on their own. But I believe it equally applies to women as well. So I just wanted to share with you some thoughts about how I view caves, how I view sanctuary, and what place that has in our relationships. So when I think about withdrawing into a cave, and I'm thinking about that in a metaphorical sense, I think what we often mean by that is that sometimes, even if we're in the most loving relationships or we're very happy with everything that's going on in our lives, we do sometimes need that time to spend time on our own, to have solitude away from everything and everybody, and to just disconnect and to just feel peaceful and to feel we have that time on our own. And the idea of going into a cave suggests that we withdraw to some extent and that we're sheltered from the outside world. And I think that's a really important thing to think about, because if you think about physically going into a cave, if you were to find a cave in nature, you would actually be sheltered from the elements. You would probably light a fire, so you probably become warmer, and you would just spend some time on your own, just reflecting and not really having many distractions at all. And you think about what our ancestors did. If you think about the cave paintings that we found from tens of thousands of years ago, it seems that being in these caves unlocked some form of creativity for our ancestors, and you can see the most amazing, beautiful cave paintings that came forth as a result. So I also think about withdrawing into our cave, whether we're speaking metaphorically or actually. I also think about that as actually giving us space to be more creative, and I think that's really important, because as human beings and as part of nature ourselves, we are creative, we're naturally creative, and I think often that gets suppressed. And I think in modern society, I think we're very distracted, and I think that actually we achieve sanctuary not through going out into nature or really spending some time alone reflecting, but actually more through using smartphones and computers and tablets and TV. I think we come to associate those things with, sanctuary and spending our downtime really looking at those sorts of things and items, because I think it's our way of disconnecting. We think we're disconnecting from everything else that's going around us, and our way of withdrawing and actually spending some time alone. And I think we're doing it more and more, but of course I think the opposite effect actually takes hold, whereas we're just distracted. That's all that's really happening. We're not really spending time reflecting, we're not really using that time to be creative, and we're not really allowing our own emotions to come to the surface or our own thoughts to permeate. We're just really just filling our mind with information. And I think the more and more we do that, the more stressed we can become, and I think it disconnects us even more from everybody around us, but not in a positive way. I think actually finding real sanctuary, physically or emotionally, I think can actually, although that actually more physically withdraws us from those people around us for a short amount of time, I think that ultimately reconnects us even more strongly when we come back. There's a real sense that if we can actually get that space and time for ourselves to really experience some tranquility, we can feel so much more rested when we are ready to come back and be with our partners. So I think that's really important. So if you think about this idea of having some internal sanctuary, like an internal cave that you can withdraw to, that's really important. And I think that you can find this place inside yourself whenever you choose to. So if you're feeling particularly stressed, or you're not coping with just day-to-day stresses and pressures of modern day life, it's really important to be able to take yourself away, take some nice deep breaths, meditate, close your eyes, get rid of all of your distractions, turn your phone off, and really spend some time just thinking and feeling and allowing yourself to be, and allowing your emotions to just sit there without even having to process them or do anything with them. Just allow them to come forth. And I think that's really important, that you find that internal stillness, just to allow your feelings to be there and to allow your thoughts to run through your mind, and actually try and create some calm for yourself. But I think also, if you were to find a way of going out into nature and finding that sanctuary or that cave in nature, then I think you can get the best of both worlds, because then what you're doing is you're able to find a cave in nature where you can go and be still and calm and quiet and peaceful and find that sanctuary. You're actually combining your internal world with the outside physical world, and I think that's a really important thing to do. And I don't mean you literally have to go and find a cave, because unless you're very fortunate and you happen to live near a cave or near the sea, that's not going to happen. And certainly for me that's not possible. But my cave, if you like, is actually going sitting under a tree. There's a lovely tree I like to sit under, and I feel very contained when I'm sitting under the tree because the branches come down very low. It's a willow tree, and I actually feel very held and very contained underneath this tree. I don't feel like people particularly notice me when I'm sitting there, so people just walk on past and I feel like I can look out to the world, but the world can't necessarily look into me, so I can just sit there and just collect my thoughts in that way. But you might find it equally from an open meadow where you just feel there's that space and that tranquility there. You might find it from a beach, you might find it anywhere out in nature, maybe in a forest. You know, I particularly love forests and woodlands because I feel very held and contained in there. It's often darker, quieter, you're surrounded by trees, you can probably find a tree to sit under in a forest as well. So anywhere really that you can find a place in nature that really speaks to you and gives you sanctuary is a really amazing practice that you can do. You can do that individually for yourself because, you know, obviously in relationships we want to connect more deeply with our partners. We really want to have that emotional bond and feel that we do really have the support we need from our partners, but equally we need that deep connection to nature and within ourselves to be able to go and experience that with a partner. So it has to start within first and foremost, and it has to be done through nature, I believe, because nature can really teach us how to really tune into that sense of self. We are nature. We're part of this whole beautiful big thing which is nature. We're not separate from it, and I believe that through reconnecting with nature we really are reconnecting with ourselves. But also, if you can then maybe perhaps experiment with finding your place in nature, finding that peace and sanctuary, and every now and again just symbolically inviting your partner into your sanctuary. So take your partner to the tree that you sit under, take your partner to the meadow you love, explain why you love it, spend that time with your partner, inviting them in every now and again and sharing that experience with them. And perhaps you and your partner can find your own sanctuary together where you both go to not be distracted but just to really spend time connecting with each other. And that in itself can bring so much to your relationship, and it's the place where you and your partner go to connect. It might even be a hotel that you really love that you've been to before, or a restaurant, or just something you love doing where you really feel that you really concentrate on each other and nothing else. So I'd love to hear where your place in nature is. I'd love to hear where you find your sanctuary or your solitude or your cave. I would love to hear from you, so put your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And come over to my website, which is www.crystalwoodbridge.com. That's KRYSTAL woodbridge.com if you haven't already, and you can sign up for my relationship coaching newsletter, which is full of helpful relationship tips and advice. And it's really about helping you to reconnect and form a much deeper relationship with your partner using nature as your inspiration and guide. Take care for now, and I really look forward to seeing you online soon. Bye.